anybody particularly, not you, Mr. Domination. Anybody else that is actually a big port aficionado, connoisseur? No? So,
I like it.
you like it? Okay. Any particular one that you like?
I seem to have a 10-year-old tawny that's a reasonably priced that tastes good to me.
Very good. 10-year-old tawny. Okay, very good. Like that. So, we're going to talk a little bit about Portugal and Portugal's wine. Portugal makes regular wine, but of course their national product in the wine industry is really port.
Cork.
Cork?
Aren't all the cork trees?
Well, the cork tree, that's true, yeah, absolutely true. Port produces a lot of cork trees. So, but anyhow, port is really, in wine-wise, really the staple item of the wine world, if you will. So, first of all, you need to understand that port is a fortified wine, which simply means that at one point they stop the fermentation process and add a grape spirit to the wine, which then stops the fermentation process. So it leaves a lot of residual sugar in the wine, and after that gives, of course, the sweetness. And then actually, because at one point the alcohol percentage is put over 17.5%, which under that process, yeast cannot produce alcohol anymore. So at that point, it is stopped. The process is stopped, and after that, it goes into some barrels. But before we get there, a couple things I need you to know. A couple of these things are like, useless information, but I'll just give it to you anyhow, because sometimes you need that, some useless information. Port is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, regulated wine region in the world, together with Chianti and together with Tokai, which is actually in Hungary, if you wanted to know that. All right, first of all, let's go, actually, I have some maps that I put out on the tables. So we first wanted to make sure, if you want to grab one of those maps and kind of spread it around, I have some couple extra, if anybody needs extras. But what we're looking for is the Douro River. And if you ever wanted to have a wonderful vacation, the Douro River tours are phenomenal. The Douro River is really an interesting river park. It originates in Spain and then ends up in the city of, Mr. Greenberg? Porto! You got it. Okay. So, this is very significant because A, the wines, the grapes, are actually all from the Douro region. They're not from the Porto or Port region. And the reason for that is because actually the name was named after the harbor where it was shipped to, and which is therefore called Porto. The backstory of that was really that most of these wineries that are on the Douro River are owned by some shippers, particularly English shippers. Therefore, you'll find many of these port names to be English, like the ones we have, Gauss, or Taylor Flatgate, or there was actually a couple of Dutch people in there too. Niehaus, this is another big one, is a Dutch-owned port house. But Portuguese ports actually is not, most of the time, not in the hands of Portuguese manufacturers. Actually, English is the biggest one in this case. History of that, of course, was that when there was one of these wars with France and England and Holland couldn't get their booze, they decided to go to Portugal, pick up some stuff over there. They said, wow, this is good stuff. Let's buy this stuff, and we'll take care of this business. We have some boats, we can get it up the river, we get our stuff there. Lovely, take it over to London. Cheers, darling. Right? And that's the story, pretty much, in a nutshell. So, first of all, let's go back a little bit to the grape varieties of the vineyards in the Douro River Valley. And you have to know that the slopes are extremely steep of this valley, which therefore has a very special function that it collects a lot of heat. And that is actually very good for the grape varieties that they are using for port. All right, let me see here. Not you, Mr. Dominich, I know you know this one. So, Mr. Dean, how many different kind of grape varieties are allowed in port wine?
No idea.
Give me a, come on.
No idea.
Somebody's calling you. See? He's like, about 60? 60 wine grape varieties are allowed in the port production, but in all honesty, there's only 6 of them that are really significant. There's about 8 of them that are really good. And just to give you this also useless information, because it's very hard for you to find out which grape varieties they actually used in port, I'll let you know that the most important one is the Touriga Nacional. You have the Touriga Franca, then you have Tinta Roriz, Tinta Francesca, and Tinta Cao. Those are fast. Sorry. Tinta Roriz, Francesca, and Bastardo. Bastardo. Those are the 6 major grape varieties that most of these are done. And it took me a little bit of homework to figure out what Dow's does, because we're all tasting Dow's wines, and the ones that we're tasting right here, it's actually more Touriga Franca and Touriga Nacional. If you ever get a Portuguese bottle of wine, I can definitely suggest to you the Touriga Nacional. It is really their best grape variety. It is phenomenal. It's really nice. And you can get these wines very inexpensive. Takes probably a little bit of a search. ABC might have it. I know Total Wine has them because I've had a couple of those before. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the first wine. We're doing a late bottle vintage. We also do some tawnies, and then we have a vintage port. So first of all, we need to clarify why all these different wines and what do they all mean. Pretty much, if you wanted to classify Portuguese wine, port wines, we should actually classify it in rubies and tawnies. Ruby and tawnies. So the difference between a ruby and a tawny is really the aging process, or better said, not so much the aging process, but the controlled oxidation of wine. At this point, still wine. So when we're talking about ruby, the oxidation has been kept to a minimum. When we're talking about a tawny, it is oxidized. Oxidation, in this case, is so controlled because normally that would kill wine, oxygen. So the controlled oxidation is actually done in a way that it actually enhances some of the flavors, and you will see that when we'll start drinking the tawny. But let's first talk about the late bottled vintage, which could be considered a ruby. I'm kind of using that term loosely in this case, because in this case, we take in one vintage, which is, I believe, 2008. Is it 2008?
Yes.
Is it 2008? Thank you very much. It is a 2008. If it is a late bottle vintage, it has to be kept a minimum of 4, but most likely 6 years on oak. In that oak, which is very porous, that kind of starts to get some oxidation happening in it. There's still some tannin structure coming from the barrel, although not much. And in that case, they hold it together. The oxidation is also possible, of course, because of the grape spirit, which you could call brandy, but it doesn't taste as good as brandy. But that is really what kind of allows you to oxidize some of the wine. Now, the late bottle vintage, right, in this case, is kept on barrels for 4 to 6 months, for 4 to 6 years. In this case, probably 4, since we have it here, and it's 2008, so my calculation is that it's probably 4 years. And then, bottled, ready to go. You can open this bottle, you can close this bottle, put it on the shelf for another month, open it again. It might taste a little bit different, but overall, due to the oxidation process, the taste of the wine is not going to be any different. I do want to make sure, late bottle vintage does not mean it's a vintage port. I will go over that conversation later on. Anyhow, I've spoken enough. You've been sitting here very patiently. And so enjoy this class. If you have any questions, of course, please let me know. I'll be walking around. And enjoy this with the lamb chop. In the meantime, I'll have my staff pour you the second one, which will be the 10-year tawny.